No, I haven't gone keto crazy, I promise. What is keto? Why am I doing it? Am I losing my mind? Most likely, yes. Welcome to a locked down Sydney. Different diets, and I don't like the word diet because I see it as restrictive and limiting, okay? You don't need to be doing that, but different ways of eating. I have noticed you've got your paleo camp who say your diet when you were a hunter-gatherer would have been basic nuts, a bit of fruit, and that would have been hard to come by, and meat. And then you've got, so that's that crowd. And there is some truth to, there must be some truth to that idea, because if you think about the amount of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years of adaptation to a particular way of eating via biology and natural selection, all that sort of stuff, you would think that our present diet, which is only developed in the modern sort of time when we've become farmers rather than hunters and gatherers, we're talking about tens of thousands of years as opposed to hundreds of thousands of years. So you can see our diet slowly crept into highly processed, lots of refined sugars, lots of carbohydrates, foods that are energy dense that our body might not be best accustomed to. So paleo camp, there's got to be a glimmer of truth in some of those ideas, okay? And then you've got your vegan camp. Quite often that's based on what they believe to be a health aspect, and there's probably a lot of truth in the fact that at our present situation, our consumption of meat is excessive compared to what it would have been, because we have easier availability of meat. We don't have to chase it anymore. So there's certainly some aspects of truth in that. And of course, there's a lot of vegans who don't consume meat for what they consider to be their own moral and ethical reasons. And that's once again down to them. They're entitled to their views. They're not views that I subscribe to. I consume meat. Maybe that's why I don't subscribe to those views. I can't help it. Animals are really tasty. Sorry. Okay. And then there's the camp who, so with your vegan camp, you've got more often than not, they will be high carbohydrate and they'll be low fat. And they stay slim and many of them profess to being healthy and happy. So you can be higher protein and less complex carbohydrates. You can be high carb, low fat. Then you've got normal people who stay slim and healthy, and they probably don't overindulge. And what they do is they balance all those things: fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and there's the things that mainstream nutritionists will profess to being the best way of eating is a balanced diet. And balance is great if you can do it, but not everyone can do it. Well, in our overfed state that we're normally in, we normally take glycogen and we're utilizing that glycogen for energy, okay? So the brain uses glucose, so we take glycogen and I think we turn it into glucose. I'm hoping that's right. At any rate, we're running on sugar, okay? We're running on carbohydrates, and the brain needs carbohydrates. Don't get me wrong, you cannot operate without carbohydrates, but I'll get back to that in a moment, because even on a keto diet, you are still running your brain on glucose. It's amazing stuff. So normally what happens is you store glycogen in your liver, you store it in your muscles, and you utilize it. Now, if you don't utilize it all, and you're getting most of our glycogen from carbohydrates normally, if you don't use it, it turns to fat, okay? And that's great, because you might need it later. But the trouble is you don't need it later because you never stop eating, okay? Or I shouldn't say you. I never stop eating. So your weight goes up. So the keto thing was quite interesting. I started looking into it, and what fascinated me about it was that there was this other energy pathway in your body that you don't normally utilize. And what is that energy pathway? What is keto? Keto is basically a different way of eating. Now, the thing, my theory on diet has always been physiology of people being what it is, people all being very, very different. What might work for one person is not necessarily going to work for another person. So you can look at the basics of it. Calories in have to be the calories you burn. If you don't burn the calories, it turns to fat, you get heavier. And that's a very oversimplified version of what's going on, because obviously physiology and energy pathways in the body and nutrition, all that sort of stuff, it's a science, it's very complex. But that is a good golden rule. Like if you eat less, you'll lose weight, okay? It's pretty much a given. But you have to be disciplined and not consume food when you're hungry. Now, hunger is a natural urge, and you don't want to be fighting that all the time, because it's kind of like gambling. You'll win for a little while, but you're always going to lose. You're always going to lose if you're hungry, because you're going to binge. And that's what tends to happen. The normal pathway for energy in the body, what is it? Let's go back into the distant past. A few 100,000 years, when we were hunter-gatherers, and you're chasing that wildebeest or that antelope, and you're sneaking up on it, and maybe a woolly mammoth, and it gets away. You're not getting dinner tonight. And that would have been quite a common thing to happen in the past. So if you think about the way we eat now, it's really obvious that we overeat. And we also have a diet that is very, very energy dense. The things we eat now, the grains that we eat, especially the modern wheat that we consume, the amounts of sugar that we consume, it's wholly unnatural. Not even if it's a natural food, it's unnatural the amounts that we consume. I've had to do a little bit of a readjust. 100 kilos bad, less than 100 kilos good. Simple inequality. I wasn't listening to my better half, my beautiful wife, and she was telling me, you are getting thick. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And the scale battery was flat, so, and lockdown, nothing to do. Why not eat a bar of chocolate or two? So I was going pretty crazy about this whole eating thing because I was bored. And I was exercising as well. I've always been good at that. But as it turns out, I went and bought the scale battery, and 99.8 kilos. So I'm 200 grams from that horrible 100. The scale, triple digits, oh my God. Abort. So as usual, I've babbled on and I've gotten completely off topic. What is keto? Keto is just eating high fat and low carb. It's limiting your carbs. And I'll admit at the start, I was a little bit uncomfortable. It says it takes a little while for you to adapt to this new energy pathway, metabolic pathway that you're taking. But I can honestly say now, I eat till I'm full, I eat as much as I want, and what I'm finding is I'm less hungry. So quite often I can skip a meal because I'm not hungry, and I only eat when I'm hungry. So it's allowed me to function quite normally once I got through the adjustment phase, and I'm losing weight without struggling. So I'm not going to stay on this forever, and I am going to cycle carbs in and out of my diet. I just know now that if I require to lose weight, because I'm getting near that magic triple digits on the scale, I've got a method that'll allow me to do that. So it remains to be seen now whether I rebound weight-wise. That's the next question that needs to be answered. Like I said, I am not a medical professional. If you do decide to try any sort of diet or any sort of new regime, definitely see your doctor, especially if you have health concerns. That's my advice to you. And all of the advice that you've received in this video is obviously my opinion. I've based it on my own research, but I am not a medical professional and I am not a nutritionist. So you should really, if you have any concerns, talk to a professional. But hey, it's worked for me. Anyway, I shall see you in the next video. Oh yes, wait, I did say I was going to tell you how even though I'm consuming huge amounts of fat, I still get glucose from my brain. And there's an amazing thing that happens when you do this process of being keto, is that you become what's known as fat adapted, which means basically you can derive glucose and glycogen from the fat. There's a number of different ways that's done, and it's very, very complex. But I know that one of the ways is called neoglucogenesis, which is basically a way of deriving glucose or glycogen from the proteins that you consume. So don't worry, you're not going to, well, I haven't died. Anyway, like I said, that's the way that we magically create sugars, even though we're not consuming them. Another thing that I said I'd have in this video would be the food that I've been consuming, but this video has gone for too long, so if there's any interest in it at all, I'll even if there isn't any interest, I'm still going to make the video. I'll do a video on food preparation, things I've been doing, and maybe talk a little bit about the fasting process as well that I've been utilising, which is 1 day a week usually, or a day or more a week, depending on how I feel. That process is something that creates ketosis and the generation of ketones when you're on a keto diet as well. Okay, so, but that's for another video. If you have enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. It's not hard, just press the little button down there, the red button. And if you find anything in this video annoying or edifying or educational, please comment below. I'll do my best to answer the comments. Try not to be too insulting. Bye.